Good morning and welcome to Sunrise on Sunrise Tech Talk, the third episode, where I'm going to to you about cable management. Cable management is pretty much the act of organizing cables and wires that are, wherever, whether it's under a computer, on a radio tower, in a wall. Fun fact, and this is kind of debated for some reason, to my understanding, the difference between a cable and a wire is a single strand of insulated copper, although I guess it doesn't have to be insulated, but it's only like one line. A cable is a bundle of wires, meaning a USB cable has 4 wires in it: transmit, receive, positive and negative. I think 99% sure about that. I make no promises legally. Anyway, the reason why I bring this up is, I'm trying to think of topics, and someone called me just to do cable management. And it kind of got me thinking about cable management, because it's something that I've worked on quite a bit over the years. As you could imagine, my first computer, oh man, was it a mess. I just kind of plugged it in and went, and then over time, more and more wires got added to it. If it's a basic system, you have your power, your monitor, keyboard and mouse, it's not too bad. But as time goes on, you get some more things. Maybe you get some accessories added onto it. You get additional things on your desk. And then especially when it got to a server rack, I tried to keep it a little bit organized, but it absolutely was not. It actually took rebuilding the server rack twice to get it organized to a point where I felt comfortable with it. But it's the same thing with people's computers. I've gone into offices and I've seen cables kind of just draped all over the place. And my first thought is, well, that looks bad. My second thought is, well, that looks dangerous. And realistically, if you wrap your arm around a power cable, it's not going to electrocute you. But especially if it's an office where you might have kids or something, a CSR at a bank, a service rep, and you're sitting on the other side of the desk, you have your kid with you, they might start touching things and messing with stuff. You might get your leg wrapped around the cable without even noticing sometimes, which almost happened to me one time, I think when I was over at Chase. And you could get up with the cable wrapped around your leg, and maybe it'll trip you, maybe you'll break something. But it just looks so unprofessional, and it shows a level of care that says, I got paid, and it doesn't say much else. It's not hard to do some sort of cable management. I mean, at a basic level, and you don't even need much more than a basic level. You take the cables and you put Velcro straps around them. You could use zip ties, but Velcro straps are nice because you could take them off and adjust them later. You could easily add a wire later. You leave a little bit of slack at both ends, because if you say it's the wires going to your monitor, leave a little foot, a little bend in the cable or a little loop, so if you ever decide to move your monitor around, it's not like you go pull on it and it's it can't move an inch because the cables are too tight. No, you leave a slack, or you leave a service loop, which is when you actually coil it, so you can undo it and move it around a couple feet. Maybe you don't need to do that for a screen, but, in certain applications like a wireless access point, you do that. Anytime I do a wireless access point, whether I'm running the wires in the attic or if I could hide it behind a cabinet, wherever it's set up, I'll leave a good couple of feet there so that you could move it, you could pull it out to work on it. But, just kind of follow beams, strap everything down, and, at the end of it, you just want something that looks nice and professional. You don't want something that, looks like garbage. What I typically do is I'll use Velcro straps because they're adjustable in the future. Obviously, depending where you are, I'm talking mostly to desks and indoor things. I'll follow some type of architecture. So, for example, this guy's just looking for attention, I guess. A fun fact, those whites on the back of your vehicles, they're going to get you in trouble. You're only supposed to have them forward facing. They're only supposed to be white at all when you're not parked. And furthermore, white's supposed to be reserved for emergency services, but, you know, I could get why you want extra attention. Like, if you're actually doing something. You're not supposed to use them when you're just driving around with no hazard. But yeah, so like, if you have your monitor on arms, which is the cleanest way to do it, hold them up off of your desk instead of using stands. You know, the cables will be strapped to the arms. They'll come down the central post. Then I'll follow it along like the edge of your desk. You know, even if I have to attach some sort of clamp or bolt to hold the bundle of wires. And that's exactly what I did with my desk, except I think I was able to just put it right onto the beam. So it followed like the beam underneath the desk, went over to the side, ran down the leg in one giant bundle. And it's a large bundle. I got a lot of things on my desk. And all the cables to Ryan's desk actually goes across mine. But it's all one organized bundle. And you look at it, and you might think to yourself, that's a lot of wires, but it's one thing. It's not stretched out all over the place to get wrapped up in or to accidentally yank. You could have a bundle of wires, you shouldn't be worried about it overheating. Like, modern cables that exceed the specifications you're requiring, it'll be just fine. Our computers themselves are on the rack, but like our monitors, I have a 10 amp cable running to the monitor, and the monitor is not using anywhere near that. The monitor's probably using, you know, a quarter of an amp. I've seen very expensive setups that might be really nice. I've seen ones that are maybe $2,500, maybe even $3,500. And, you know, the computer's exactly what this person wants. Water cooling, RGB lights, everything. I've seen office computers done into dozens that, you know, they look clean, they look professional, and they do their job. Except the final touch is to string the cables wherever the hell they fit. And you know what really gets me? It's like, oh, that cable is a little too short. That's okay. We'll just pull on it a little bit and it'll be just long enough. Don't do that. Get an extension cable if you have to. Get the right size cables in the first place. It's just so frustrating because cable management is not hard. It's actually a very simple thing. It took me 10 minutes to teach a 5-year-old how to do it, and she was excited to help me like set up stuff on my desk and all that, and she did pretty much just fine. Like, I squared things off a little bit, made it look nice, but she's like, I want to run this cable, and it was like USB, and she just followed the rest and strapped it down good, and I'm like, okay, a kid could do it. At this point, there's no excuse why you pay somebody, you know, hundreds of dollars sometimes to come do work for you, and they don't do that. It's easy. It's not complicated. It doesn't even take a lot of time, and in the end, the work that is done looks professional. It's a little bit safer, and you know, back to this guy who called me just for cable management. I don't know, I think he went from Optimum to Dish or vice versa. Both of them are guilty about this, so I don't care to talk mess. This technician just kind of ran a cable diagonally along his wall, and granted his TV's mounted at a wall, he didn't even suggest any options for cable management. The company doesn't care to put it at least inside like a plastic tube, but he didn't even run it straight. It kind of comes out from like almost the bottom right corner of the TV, like 5 inches off of that, and then it runs on like a 40-degree angle over to the floor. And I have a suspicion when I get over there that there's not going to be enough slack cable to actually run it the right way. So to get it done right, it's not expensive, but this guy's going to have to buy an extension off of me for like, what, 3 feet? I mean, they have spools that are 1,000 feet long or more when they run this. It depends. The little ones you bring inside are like 1,500 to 1,000, you know, but you can certainly have larger ones than that when you're running it outside. But yeah, I don't know. I gotta take a look at it, see what the options are. His TV's up off the table. It's like mounted to the wall. Looks very nice. Looks very nice other than that cable there. So I don't know whether we're going to run the cable inside the wall behind the TV and then make it pop out at the bottom, or if we're going to use the cable channel, which is basically a plastic track to run the cable perfectly in the middle. So it'll come out underneath the middle of the TV, but his walls are white, so we would use a white plastic channel and tuck the cable into that. And you still see something, but it's a lot easier to do. It's cheaper to do. You could do it yourself at home. They're called cable raceways or cable channels. Just don't get the cheapest usually. It will usually work if you really think you're going to do that one thing, but what I've learned about the cheapest ones is that they will change their design every few months. That's not ideal, because if you need to get more later on, they're not going to match. So find one that's been out for like a while, and I just get that because I've been ordering this one for years, and they all look exactly the same. So if I ever need to add any to job later on, it matches perfectly. And to some people, that's really important. And so as someone who's running and doing business for these people, to me, it's really important. And plus, I completely understand it too. I have that slight touch of OCD that, you know, I want it to look good. I want it to look professional. So if you're doing it yourself, do it right. And if you're hiring someone to do it, hire someone that will do it right. Obviously, you know, my brother and I, we're a couple guys that are going to do it right. We're not the only guys that will, but we're a guaranteed way to get the job done right. So hope everyone's having a good morning and surviving the cold. It's very cold. Never be afraid to learn something new, and have an awesome day.